Hello dear students, today we're going to talk about a very basic but very important topic, that is nouns. Okay, now we all have heard about names, right? That name can be of a person, a place, a thing or an idea. Now these names when added up into a sentence are called nouns. These nouns are what we're going to study in this video. Okay, now let us jump on to the definition of nouns. What are nouns? Nouns are parts of speech that comprise of words that are used to name people, places, animals, objects and ideas. Almost every sentence will definitely have a noun and they perform different roles in a sentence. Okay, now from this definition it is quite clear that we're talking about naming of these people, places, animals, objects and ideas. Right. So, in simple words, what is a noun? A noun is a name of every living and non-living thing when added up in a sentence. That is called a noun. Clear? Okay, now that we know what nouns are exactly, let us talk about the different types of nouns. Right, now there are basically 9 most important kinds of nouns that are used in our everyday environment and in your examination setting. So in this video, we're going to talk about these major 9 kinds. Okay, namely these kinds are proper nouns, common nouns, singular nouns, plural nouns, countable nouns, uncountable nouns, collective nouns, concrete nouns and abstract nouns. Let us discuss these types in detail to understand each one of them distinctively. Let's start with the first category, that is proper nouns. Okay, now what are proper nouns? Those nouns that provide a description of the people, places, ideas and objects that we discussed before are known as proper nouns. Now let us take an example of these nouns to understand better. Okay, consider this statement. Mohan has a Ford car in Delhi. Now in this statement, Mohan is the name of a person. Right, so it is providing me the description of that person. Similarly, Ford is the brand name of the car. Right, so it is again providing me the description of the car. Similarly, Delhi is the city name in which the car is belonging to. So that means that is again providing me a description of the place. Right. So these kind of specific names that provide description are known as proper nouns. Now the opposite of these proper nouns are common nouns. These kind of nouns provide a generic idea. Generic idea means a very general, a very brief of the people, places and ideas and objects. Right, there is no description provided. For example, if I have to write, he has a car. Now in this sentence, he and car are not providing me any description. That means these are common nouns. Clear? Okay. Moving on to the next category is singular nouns. Now, what are singular nouns? These nouns refer to names of single person, place, object or idea. This implies that these nouns only refer to individual identities. Right? I hope that's clear. Now, whether that identity be a name of a place or a person or a thing, that identity has to be individually present. Let us take an example of this. Now, the book is placed on the desk. Now, in this statement, if we look carefully, the word book and desk are individual identities. Right? So that means that these nouns are singular nouns. Right? Now, to the opposite of that are plural nouns. What are plural nouns? These nouns refer to names of multiple people, places, and objects. Right? So whatever we're talking about in plural nouns are not individual identities, rather they are multiple identities. Right? An example of such noun would be the books are placed on the desks. Now in this statement, it is quite clear that the words books and desks are what? They are multiple identities. They are plural nouns. Right. Moving on to the next category is countable nouns. Now what are countable nouns? The nouns that can be counted or measured. Nouns that can be counted or measured are known as countable nouns. This means that these nouns are quantifiable. Right? These nouns are quantifiable. Now, if I have to take an example of such nouns, I would say I have 3 dresses. Now in this statement, I can see that the noun dresses is countable. I can count that how many number of dresses are there? There are 3 number of dresses. That means the word dresses is a countable noun. It is a quantifiable noun. Right? Okay. Again, there is a contrasting category to these kind of nouns, which is uncountable nouns. Right. So these nouns are not measurable, and similarly they are not quantifiable. This implies that these kind of nouns cannot be measured and they cannot be quantified under no circumstances. Right? So, an example to such kind of nouns would be I have a lot of homework. Okay. Now in this sentence, the noun a lot cannot be measured and cannot be quantified. Right. So this noun is an uncountable noun. Clear? Moving on to the next category, which is collective noun. Now what is a collective noun? These nouns refer to naming word that is used to denote a group. Okay. Now this group can be of people, places, or objects. If I have to name an example of a collective noun, I would say a flock of sheep. Okay. Now in this example, a flock is what? It is a group name that has been given to a group of sheep. Right? So a flock here is a collective noun. Moving on to the next category, which is concrete nouns. Now, look carefully and try to understand the meaning of the word concrete. It means something that has fixed boundaries, right? Something that has clear boundaries, right? Now, nouns that are material based and that have fixed boundaries are known as concrete nouns. Why? Because these kind of nouns are easily perceived by humans. These nouns are easily perceived by humans, right? So that is why these nouns are known as concrete nouns. Now let us consider an example of this noun to understand better. Okay. Consider this statement. Hardy writes with a pen in his notebook. Okay. Now, in this statement, words like pen and notebook are easily perceived by human beings, right? You can easily understand the meaning of the word pen and notebook. So these nouns are what? These are concrete nouns because they have fixed boundaries. They have a clear vision in the human mind. Okay. Moving on to the next category, which is abstract nouns. Now, these nouns are what? These are contrary to concrete nouns. Why? Because they cannot be easily perceived. They cannot be perceived by humans. Why is that? Because these nouns are not identified by five senses. The five senses that you own cannot identify these nouns. That is why these nouns cannot be interpreted by the human beings easily. Okay, an example of such noun would be honesty is the best policy. Now, in this example, the word honesty, think about this word. This word cannot be perceived by humans, right? Until and unless you put a practical use to this word, that is, when you show honesty, then only you can understand its meaning. Otherwise, it cannot be identified by you, it cannot be touched, it cannot be seen, it cannot be felt until and unless you utilize it in a practical purpose. So these nouns are known as abstract nouns. Okay students, I hope all of these 9 types of nouns are now clear to you. Let's move on to the next topic, which is nouns as different components of a sentence. Now there are major 3 components a noun can represent. That are noun as a subject, noun as an object, and noun as a complement. Let's dive into details of all 3 components to understand better. Starting with the first one, noun as a subject. When a noun acts as the doer of the task that is being carried out in the sentence, or in simpler words, when a noun acts as the main character of the sentence, it takes up the form of the subject of the sentence. Okay. Generally, this appears in the very beginning of the sentence. That means a subject will be written in the very beginning of the sentence, and it can be identified by asking the question who. Who did the task? Who is the doer? Right. Now let us take an example to understand this. For example, I say Bruno went to the park. Now, in this example, Bruno is the doer of the task. What is the task? Going to the park. Right. Now, who went to the park? Bruno did. So, Bruno is who? Bruno is the subject of the sentence. Now, in this sentence, the noun Bruno acted as the subject. Understood? Moving on to the next type, which is noun as an object, where a noun acts as the affected thing, person or place. Affected thing, person or place in the sentence that the doer or the subject is affecting, then that noun takes up the form of an object of the sentence. Okay, these kinds of nouns generally appear in the latter part, of sentence. That means in the very end of the sentence, and they can be identified by asking the question what is being affected. Right. Now if I have to take an example of this, I will ask, where is your book? Now in this sentence, if I look carefully and I look at the noun, which is book, this noun is being affected in this sentence, right? They are asking about the book's location, the book's position. So what is being affected? What is being affected? The book is being affected. So the book here acts as an object in the sentence. Whereas it is the noun, but the noun took up the form of an object in the sentence. Okay. Moving on to the next type, which is noun as a complement. Now, when a noun is used to modify, or describe another noun. When a noun is used to modify or describe another noun, it acts as a complement to that noun. Understand this with the help of an example. Okay. If I have to say Jawaharlal Nehru was the Prime Minister of India. Okay. Now, in this sentence, Jawaharlal Nehru, in this sentence, if I look carefully, Jawaharlal Nehru is a pronoun, right? And Prime Minister is another noun that acts like a complement to the pronoun here. Okay, the word Prime Minister, the noun Prime Minister acts like a complement to the pronoun Jawaharlal Nehru. Who was Jawaharlal Nehru? He was the Prime Minister. So complement or the tag can be given to another noun when we're talking about a pronoun here, right? So that is what is called noun as a complement. These are the three components of noun acting in a sentence. I hope that is clear. Okay. Now, concluding with the final and very interesting topic of this video, let's talk about multiple functions performed by nouns. What are the different functions that noun perform? Okay, so noun generally performs two functions, that are noun as a verb and noun as an adjective. Right, now both of these forms are adopted by nouns when there is a slight modification in the spellings of the word. Slight modification in spellings of the word. Okay, when there are slight modifications in the spellings of the word, there is a different form taken up by the noun. It can act as a verb or it can act as an adjective. Now this phenomena will guide us to identify whether it is a noun, a verb or an adjective. Okay, now let us start with the first one, right, which is noun as a verb. Okay, we all know that verb symbolizes an action taking place. When we're talking about verbs, we're talking about some action taking place, right? So this means whenever you find a noun spellings altered to such a form that it now depicts a work or an action taking place, that noun has taken the verb form. Whenever you see that the spellings of a noun are slightly modified and they now depict an action taking place in the sentence, that noun is now changed into a verb. Okay, let me explain this with the help of an example. Look at these sentences. Do you like my dress? Now in this sentence, if you look carefully, the word dress is a noun, right? The word dress is a noun. Whereas if I write another sentence, I am dressed and ready to go. Okay. Now in this sentence, the word dressed, the spellings of the word dress in the first sentence are slightly modified to the word dressed here. Now in this sentence, dressed is not a noun. It is what? It is a verb. Because dressed is an action taking place. Someone is getting dressed. That is an action taking place. Right? So the spellings of the word dress are modified to change the form of the noun. Similarly, a noun can also act like an adjective. Okay, what does an adjective do? An adjective highlights the key points of a noun. Right, an adjective highlights the key points of a noun. So, whenever a description is provided before or after a noun, almost every time that description is an adjective. Okay, and an adjective can also be produced by changing the spellings of the noun slightly. Now let us clear this with the help of an example. Consider this statement. She is excited about magic. And I will write another statement, which is the experience was magical. Okay, now in both these sentences, the words like magic and magical are two different functions of noun. We can clearly see that the word magic is slightly modified into the word magical, right? But in the first sentence, it represents the function of a noun. And in the second sentence, it represents the function of an adjective. Because it is telling us about the noun experience, that how was the experience. We are getting to know about the how factor. How was the experience? This is a description. Magical is a description that came after a noun. So this is an adjective. But in the first sentence, the word magic is a noun. Right. So this means that even the slightest modifications can result in the complete change of form in the case of nouns. Okay students, I hope you people have now understood how to crack nouns in your school and competitive examinations like CAT. Much more content about this topic is uploaded on the Edurav app. You can find out more about nouns by checking out the CAT course here and then clicking on the verbal ability and reading comprehension section. On scrolling, you will be provided with the section of English grammar. And you can see topics like nouns and many other English grammar related topics. You can unlock the locked videos, documents and tests of the complete course with the Edurav Infinity Plan and ace your exam at less than 80 rupees a month. Thank you.